because the primaries are happening and everything, you see all these presidential candidates debating it out on the stages and stuff. So, bro, why are you laughing? Why are you laughing?
Sorry.
Why are you laughing?
Wait, what about it? What about
Why are
what
you
about all
laughing?
these presidential candidates?
Yeah. Okay. So obviously, I've watched the Republican debates because there's way more Republican candidates, and
what a well-informed man.
they've actually been debating, and then the Democrats. There's a couple of them. There's two of them, I think, that actually.
What?
I mean,
Who's the other one?
Dean Phillips or something.
Oh, what happened to Marianne Williamson or whatever her name was?
No idea. There's only two Republicans left too, but the Democrats didn't even have a debate or anything.
Mm-hmm.
So that's my point. But yeah, so I've seen some of the debate. So I saw the Republican debates, and they were smashing on socialism as usual and saying, it's gonna be the end of everything. Socialism will ruin everything, and then usually Democrats are on the opposite side of that, but we didn't see their debates.
Yeah.
And also at the WEF meeting, the Argentinian
Nothing.
The Argentinian prime minister was the same. He was going off on socialism, and he was saying that it's gonna ruin everything. So I was thinking a little bit about this socialism versus capitalism thing, because someone once told me that it doesn't actually it doesn't really matter, or the attacks on socialism and the attacks on capitalism are just a way to divide us all, and neither of them matter, because social policies have always been there. We've never had pure capitalism, and we've never had pure socialism either. There's always been a mix of both in whatever society throughout history. So,
True.
Yeah. So I was thinking about that, and I feel like where we went wrong in terms of capitalism was not capitalism itself. There's a lot of people who will just say it's what?
I was thinking about what Sean Strickland said, is by letting women work.
Oh, yeah.
That's where we went wrong.
Yeah.
I'm leaving that in there as well.
Where we went wrong. But where we went wrong was not capitalism itself, but dirty capitalism, and where you have businesses collaborating with governments. If it was truly pure capitalism, like what people advocate for, then the governments wouldn't be collaborating with the businesses in the first place. So I think that would have worked, but where we went wrong again was when those big companies started playing playing a role in the governments. And someone literally said this during our history class, that JP Morgan busted the government out of a...
Yeah.
That's insane. How did a company busted the government out of a debt crisis?
Yeah.
So then you would have to think about the consequences of that. Like he's not paying them for free. He's not busting them out for free. That's what I would think. JP Morgan is a businessman. Why would he bust out anyone for free?
And it also went vice versa, I remember, because during especially the Depression era, the government busted out a lot of people that were in debt or something. They just gave them freebies, basically.
Yeah.
And they didn't employ them or anything. They just gave the entire financial market a freebie, basically, in regards to their debt.
During as part of the New Deal program?
During that time. I don't know if it was part of the program specifically.
I heard New Deal program was mainly focused on job opportunities, and that FDR himself was saying that it's not, or we should not be giving out freebies because it's not sustainable.
In the long run.
And yeah. Oh, so maybe it was in the short term, yeah. But the New Deal definitely had a lot of job opportunity programs. What about the
Yeah, but now I don't know.
Remember all the service corps and stuff that they
CCC
were they were creating, yeah.
But I don't know. How many of those jobs are still in place today? I'd say a large majority of them, no?
Yeah, and also I was thinking at that time minimum wage was, you could live off of it. Like our minimum wage was, a respectable wage, a respectable living. And now wage versus cost of living is just so big, the gap.
I mean, I remember I said a blue collar, or I remember in one of the episodes before, a long time ago, I said there is a blue collar worker in 1945 or something. I forgot the exact date, but a blue collar worker in the 1940s, 1950s could live off, once 3 years of his salary was paid, he could afford a house. But nowadays, it's not even close to that.
Yeah, no way. Your average worker at Target, it's all teenagers.
Yeah, if you look at the way that salaries have been rising since back then, the salary back then has risen a decent amount, but the house rates have tripled or even quadrupled that. Yeah. The rate of growth of the households. Yeah. It's tripled or quadrupled the rate of growth of salaries.
It's insane. So that makes you question
why. It means less and less and less people are going to be able to buy a house. So it was harder for our parents to buy a house. Now it's harder for us to buy a house.
100%.
And then it's going to be even harder for the children, the next generation to buy.
Look at the people that own a house nowadays. Even our parents, they're like in the top
5%,
top not even percent, like class of workers. I don't know if you
Sure.
can call it the managerial class, but it's a certain set of workers that they're highly educated, highly skilled workers. You know, they're not by any means an average worker.
That's true.
So I
Yeah.
feel like people who own houses are like that, or in general, they're all corporate level workers and not entry level either. You know.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And is it just wait?
That's also why I don't know what caused what, but manufacturing, there's been way less manufacturing in our country, and I don't know if that could be a result of no one wants to work. No, I think it's the other way around actually.
Well, no one wants to work, so
manufacturing jobs.
Yeah.
No. I think manufacturing people got cut out of their jobs because they started moving out for cheaper labor.
Okay, that makes sense.
That's what it was.
Yeah, but then we started outsourcing all our labor. Now, China's doing all the things. The back of every clothes that we wear, every
100%.
piece of clothing that we wear, it says
100%.
made in China, made in Taiwan,
Yeah.
made in the Philippines sometimes.
Yep.
So now we don't have the power to that anymore.
Yeah. That's the thing. A country is only as rich as it produces, and
And I feel like a lot of our people have turned to stock markets as well. But what even is a stock market really? Like it's
Yeah.
literally nothing.
Yeah, it definitely it doesn't count for it. I don't think it should be.
It's
stock
just you see the
market,
numbers
we
on your
shouldn't-
screen go up
We shouldn't reflect the stock market
as an indicator of the economy.
Yeah.
I remember you were saying that a lot as well.
Yeah.
But even I was thinking about this. You're just seeing the numbers on your screen go up. It
Yeah.
doesn't actually
Yeah.
really mean anything.
It doesn't.
What if all the servers
also the
crash?
big
Then what happens to your stocks?
The huge funds are control the stock market almost entirely.
Yeah, it's true.
The little guy has no power in the stock
Yeah,
market.
it's true. I mean, we talked a lot about trust busting and anti-monopoly and stuff, but they're still definitely in place.
There's worse.
I know.
They want you to
It's
bel-
worse now because it's so secretive.
Yeah, it is secretive, and it's almost like when we learn it, we think, oh, trusts were this huge problem back then. Now we have laws in place so that monopolies can never be in place again. But it's worse than it is.
Yeah, I know.
It's worse now than it was then, I think.
know. Like, why isn't anyone, trust busting Amazon?
Yeah, 100%.
Because no one wants to.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like, remember, even in that debate thing that we were talking about, where they're saying this law is a specific exemption for the protections for these online companies. But then they're saying, why hasn't no one taken any action yet?
Yeah.
It's just because they don't want them to.
Yeah, 100%. We should get back to that housing point because we said that house prices have increased a lot compared to the average person's wage, but why did they increase so much?
We both know why they increased. I don't know if we want to talk about this.
I'll say it, man. I don't care.
Yeah,
No one's
fine.
watching our podcast.
Yeah, fine. But I don't know. We might be censored by YouTube.
All right, fine. Let's filter it down then.
Well, all right, fine. Bill Gates, you're not getting on this podcast, buddy.
Wait, what? Bill Gates? We can cut this out if necessary. What are you talking about?
What? Bill Gates?
Yeah.
He's buying so much land in America.
Oh yeah. A lot of people are.
So much. Like
Yeah.
he's buying hundreds and billions of dollars worth of land.
Yeah. Okay, but also that's not what I was implying. I mean, there's that. But also why have wages risen so little as compared to okay, I guess the people that are buying land, the amount of money they're making has risen so exponentially compared to wages.
Mm-hmm.
So
It's just wealth concentration. It's just an effect of everything, as we've been saying before.
yeah,
Like, for example, you're saying the average blue-collar worker back in 1945, the wealth was much more distributed, as in people had more money relatively in terms of purchasing power,
yeah,
obviously. But then, I mean, if we're looking at... So the people, even the rich people back then, they didn't hold as much of a superiority over the lower class. Like the
100%.
middle class, the American middle class is a very real thing back then. But now, if we're looking at how much the really, really rich people have in terms of how much the less fortunate people have, it's like the middle class is going away, and people are either falling towards one side or the other.
yeah.
So now that has happened, that's what you're saying. It's growing so much more exponentially. Maybe that has to do with them getting rid of manufacturing so much. Now the only way you can get through is by innovating something or by just working for the people that are innovating something.
Yeah.
And the harder that a worker works, the more the innovator makes, even if they didn't do that much beside the original idea to begin with.
Mm-hmm.
And then after that, obviously, because the innovators are making so much more money compared to the workers, then they start having all these interests to expand their money. They buy all these houses, they buy all this land, and then the house prices itself are going up, and the workers who are making substantially less don't have they don't have the funds to buy them.
Mm-hmm. So I don't know.
It could be. It all could be directly linked back to manufacturing.
But why did manufacturing decrease? That's what I wanted to. That's what I'm thinking
When did
about.
manufacturing start decreasing?
I'd say post World War II, we were on a high in manufacturing. That's also when people say.
Yeah, but what about the rate of manufacturing?
What?
As
compared to the rest of the world.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's when we were peaking, and that's when our economy became number one too. That's yeah. It's like the cycle we've talked about. You know, you have the rise, the peak, and the fall. You know?
Yeah. Well, this thing is saying in 2000s, but there's no way. It's before that.
That's probably looking at gross output or something. But if you look at the rate, post World War II, we were manufacturing so much. Remember all that huge movement where we assembled.
Manufacturing peaked in July 1979, or June 1979.
In terms of rate?
In terms of the amount of people employed in manufacturing jobs.
I don't know. That's not valid either because our population obviously boomed too. Our population obviously increased too. I think when we hit the world's number one economy, that's when our manufacturing was best.
Sure.
So post World War II maybe. And then a lot of people say 1960 was I don't know if they do say that, but
50s is known as the golden age in terms of stuff like Hollywood.
Well, our country's peak was post World War II, right?
You think?
I think so.
Yeah, okay, but then
look up when America became the number one economy. I think that's the only way we can say what a peak is, you know?
Sure.
Because as soon as you hit that highest point in your economy, I don't know.
It became the number one economy in 1890.
Okay, that's not true then. It's not as soon.
No. Yeah, but then it kept going up. Obviously, the rate of growth is probably still the same.
Oh, we were still on a rise.
We were still on a rise, and then that rise started to curb.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Let's look up growth rate.
GDP.
US
that's why again, GDP is a bad statistic because
bad
we measure so many things in GDP that shouldn't even be counted. It's gross domestic product. It's what we're producing. You can't count financial derivatives in your GDP.
Yeah.
I feel like ultimately, again, that's what it boils down to: how much you're making, or how much what a country is making physically. That's what a country's power should be measured in.
Why is it not? Okay, it's starting from 85. I don't see anything from before that. Probably because I know the rate has slowed down so much. Okay. Well, I mean, even if you're looking at these.
When did our GDP...
Oh, wait, 2021 was really high, but outside of that, it's been on a steady decline.
When did our GDP become the number one in the world?
1890.
Oh, okay.
That's when it happened.
All right.
But then I'm saying we could have kept going up since then.
I think post-World War II was when we began to...
I'd say post-World War I was when we became the world's best, the world's
No,
superpower.
I mean when we began to fall off.
Oh, yeah, maybe. Yeah. No, I mean, we fell off pretty hard after World War I, I'd say.
Yeah, but World War II was huge for us. Our economy was booming during World War II.
It was just a short-term thing, no? It's like a short-term resurgence. If you're looking at...
I think... The nuclear family and all that, even in terms of culture, was great. Like America was great culturally.
Yeah, maybe.
Still, when our culture started to take a shift was in the '60s with the protests and but they were kind of right. Keep us out of war, But there was a lot of other things going on with culture too.
Yeah, because they say hippies, and we talk about the things that they stood for, but the things that they were doing also was not very good.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Like so much smoking and so much drugs.
I mean, we were smoking was a thing always, but yeah, sex, weed, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't know. We tend to associate with their
the nuclear family was during World War II, right? Or was that during Cold War? That was during Cold War. Yeah.
That's why it's called the nuclear family.
Yeah.
The Cold War, it ended, or the peak of the Cold War was really in the 60s.
I feel like the nuclear family was during the beginning of the Cold War that's when people were starting to get worried and stuff
about nuclear threats and stuff. Yeah. But was it really?
Because Cold War went until when? It didn't officially end until 90s. Yeah.
It ended with the collapse of the Soviet
Union. Yeah.
But I mean, it cooled down a lot after Kennedy.
Mm-hmm.
No, it didn't. It cooled down a lot after space.
Yeah, Kennedy was when they were spying on each other and stuff. Yeah. Yeah, I think, that period, post-World War II. World War II, I think itself was great for American economy. We were producing
but then
so
again,
much
if you look at the purchasing power of the U.S. dollar, for example, and a lot of other graphs like that in terms of economy and you adjust everything for inflation, it really started declining in the 1910s.
Mm-hmm.
And then it had a brief resurgence in the World War II era, and then it just kept going down after, immediately after World War II ended.
So you think World War II allowed, a brief...
Yeah, that's all
boom,
I think.
But we were already on the decline from 1913, from when the Fed was created.
It could be. I feel like, I don't know. There could be a lot of things to do with that. Because before the Fed, obviously, there were economic cycles where we had, I think we had more frequent boom and busts.
Mm-hmm.
But now the busts are huge and the booms are pretty good.
Yeah.
Sad, with the exception of 2021. That was a huge boom.
Yeah. I want to get back to that point about income inequality between, not even income inequality, but the whole point about how people can't afford houses anymore and how they're almost eliminated. The middle class is getting wiped out now. We're getting two separate classes of people almost. I feel like to that point about JP Morgan and busting out America, the cost that came at was the precedent that it set for corporations to get involved with the government. And I think it is the goal of these huge corporations to get involved more in society and more in government and get more power. And people ask, why would they want more? They already have enough. But I think there's a point. Oh, that wasn't working?
Yeah, but you were talking the whole time. So
Okay. But I think that there's a point where I'm not saying we can't. Yeah, I kind of am saying that. I think there's a point where you start chasing money. It sounds anti-capitalism. It's really not, but it's again, dirty capitalism was how I coined it earlier. But there's a point where you start making money, and then you look for loopholes around the system to make even more money. There's a finite amount of resources in this world, and the more you consolidate the resources towards one side, or basically the more you consolidate your resources for fewer people, then you will be richer. Then whoever in that fewer class will be living better. Then their state of living will improve. If you consolidate the resources to a fewer amount of people, and then give the resources left to a less amount of people. And I think that's the goal of these super rich corporations and stuff. That's what they're trying to do, because they've reached a point where they're trying to make more and more money, and they're finding dirty ways to do it. And that's the point where, I feel like even they got so involved in the government, and we think it ended after trust busting, but it didn't end after trust busting. It got worse after trust busting. You look at everything that's going on today. I think the signs are so obvious that corporations are involved in government. Because think about the people who are buying defense stocks and stuff. That's insane. But
yeah.
And then
you want to go over that or not?
What if you can hit that? But my point is, tools, even the Fed, it's a government entity. It's a government entity. But if you look at how much they're involved with even senators and legislators, what would make you think they can't get involved with the Fed? I think monetary policy itself is something that made America way, way worse off. We discussed this, but it's like a Band-Aid. It doesn't actually solve anything. It's, if you're laissez-faire and if you're, pro-capitalism, as in how we've defined it today, you would be against monetary policy because it's intervening in the economy in a not healthy way. As we went over, an economy's health can only be measured by how much it produces, and monetary policy does nothing for production. Money is what? It's a concept. Money doesn't actually exist. So when you mess with money, you're not fixing anything in the economy. Keynesian economics was something that was how Keynesian economics worked in the 1940s, again, when America was producing more, was increased demand through government spending, which makes sense. If you increase demand, then production will go up. Production will go up. And then if production goes up, the economy gets better. Simple. But when we started, even in a macro last year, when we started talking about monetary theory or monetary policy And we had to look at all these different connections, like, oh, if you adjust the money supply, it'll do this, and it'll do this, and it'll do this. But then it always comes around, it comes back around. Mm-hmm. Just because you adjust the money and you get like some brief benefit from that doesn't mean you solved any issue, because production is still low, Yeah. It's a whole, it's like printing money.
You're playing the numbers game. You're just making it seem like you're better than you actually are.
Exactly.
Because, I mean, if you're saying what is a country's worth determined by, the first thing I would say, at least, is military, and then the second is economy.
Mm-hmm.
But then, if you're looking at the economy of the United States, we're not producing anything.
Mm-hmm.
We're just the hub for all these different countries and different companies to sell us their products.
Exactly.
All we have is consumerism.
Yeah.
And this consumerism, it isn't even coming from us.
Mm-hmm.
It's coming from various other sources.
Meaning what?
Other countries.
Consumers?
Or what? No. The products that the consumers buy.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. But we have the consumers.
Yeah. But then is we have the consumers, but is consumer spending on outside products counted towards our GDP? Like if Nissan sold their cars here, is that counted towards our GDP?
I want to say no. What was it again? Or consumer spending, government spend,
investment, and then
exports minus imports. I think it counts. I think all consumer spending counts.
Yeah,
I think all consumer spending counts.
Exactly,
but exports don't count unless it's.
It's just the only thing that we get off of that is the small amount of taxes that these companies are paying towards the U.S. to sell their stuff there. And even if you're thinking about it, most of these companies find loopholes anyway. Mm-hmm. So the U.S. itself is not making much money off of that.
Yeah.
But we overinflate our worth.
We're counting it in our gross domestic product.
Yeah. But I'd say, in terms of military, though, I mean, allegedly, based off what they're telling us, the U.S. is still the strongest.
I've been hearing that even military, like Russia, the stuff that Russia and China are developing is insane. In terms of, I don't know the exact detail. I'm not super into this, but I know some people who are. And they were telling me, even in the Ukraine war, or in Ukraine, Russia last year, they were just pushing out, they had this stuff from the Cold War or something.
What?
They had old tanks and stuff from the Cold War.
Yeah.
And that's what they were putting out first. They weren't even putting their new tech out. And with that tech, they were beating the U.S. And I don't know, I mean, supposedly the U.S. isn't that involved, and we're just giving money. I don't even know what's going on. The government won't tell us what's going on.
Yeah.
One.
Or in no media either.
They won't tell us what, like, do we have...
I feel like
they haven't given a direct... Most Americans don't know. If you ask them, do we have troops in Ukraine? How much money are we spending in Ukraine? Those kind of things, we don't know. But I heard Russia was just pushing out this Cold War age technology, and they were still winning. And then only after that are they going to push out this new technology. And I've heard Russia's developing some crazy technology, even during the Ukraine war. I think this is known, but they shut down internet and stuff for Ukrainians and all that. And some of the technology they have can just wipe out like internet on a huge scale, like massive scale, and not just internet, but just communications, like that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So
I mean, if you really think about it, obviously the U.S. government would tell us the U.S. has the strongest military.
I mean, maybe we still have the strongest.
I think we have the strongest military,
but it's in a severe decline.
Yeah, I mean, that too. But also in terms of nuclear warheads, I think we have the most.
Maybe
from the numbers.
Yeah.
But I think that number might be legit as well.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of like severe nuclear weapons that we have.
True.
But I don't know. I feel like, I mean, you can argue that the U.S. military hasn't really used its full might yet.
Yeah. I'm not saying they did.
Okay, compared to World War II.
Yeah. How
many Afghanistan veterans are there? I would wager not as much. Well, one, we aren't drafted anymore.
Yeah. True.
But I don't think they're sending that much manpower, and they're sending, they didn't. I don't think they spent that much money on. I mean, in terms of the money that they said they did, they spent $1 trillion. Apparently, allegedly, they spent $1 trillion on Afghanistan and Iraq. But, I mean, in terms of what, we haven't really seen much. The only recent revelation we've seen are those drone attacks. But even then, I'm sure we have a lot more up our sleeve that we're just not disclosing.
Maybe.
To get, because why would we go all in on anything in Afghanistan? Because our real threat is still China. It's not them. Yeah, it's China and Russia and them. So, I mean, what we would do.
I think if things escalate with Taiwan, there could be a potential huge war.
Maybe. I feel like the world is on the brink of a huge war, no matter how you look at it.
Really?
There's just too many mini conflicts going on.
Yeah.
And there's too much geopolitical tension between the Western and the Eastern countries.
How do you think it would like be like to be in war right now, like living in a warring time? Obviously, there's no more draft or anything.
There's no more draft, but I don't think we need that draft anymore.
Yeah.
Because of how much technology has advanced.
Yeah, true.
I feel like, I mean, what would people on the battlefield do if they're getting bombed? Nothing.
Yeah.
So, I don't see the reason.
What would it be like living in that kind of world? I wonder. I feel like prices would go up.
Probably not fun.
Prices would go up a lot because
would they?
Yeah, because supply and like
we've always tended to do well
transporting things.
We've always tended to do well in wartime, though.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if it would be.
I mean, it depends on the leadership.
Does it though?
A little bit.
Think about it. Was Wilson all that good of a president?
Yeah, but like, bro, I mean, our sitting president. I won't say anything. No, he's too old. I'll say that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's a bipartisan take.
Sure. I would say it's still a bipartisan take to say he's on drugs as well. He's on severe drugs to keep him awake.
I don't know if he's on like drugs to, what is it called? Like,
to keep him functioning, bro. He's definitely not.
Okay, he's on medicine. Stable. He's on medicine.
He's on.
When you said drugs, you implied that he's on leisure drugs.
Yes. Oh, my fault.
Yeah.
But yeah. But I mean, who knows?
Yeah.
What would you think it'd be like to live in a warring world?
I don't know. That's what I'm wondering. Because when we study history and stuff, when we look at history textbooks, and we're studying the nuclear family during the Cold War, and I feel like even if we had something like that right now, we wouldn't even know. We'd just be living in it,
Mm-hmm.
And then
they'd coin it in history textbooks.
Yeah, 50 years down the line, they'd be like the internet age, the internet war, keyboard warrior. Yeah. Just Chinese, and actually China's not even allowed on TikTok or any of that.
Mm-hmm.
They have 2 hour screen time limits for their kids.
Really?
Yeah.
That's what we should do, bro. What's going on? I know people that their screen time is like 8 hours, 9 hours, 10 hours.
Yeah. That's insane.
Like, what do you even do with all that time?
It's a third of your day, man. Yeah, and then 1/3 is at school and 1/3 is sleeping.
Yeah.
Awful.
It's either that, and also in any public event ever, all people are concerned about is just taking pictures.
Yeah.
So they can post it on their Instagram.
Yeah, and even at public events, people stop talking to each other and they're just on their phones.
On their phones, I know.
Yeah.
I feel like if you're with another person, you should just not look at your phone. I feel like you shouldn't look at your phone in general. I'm gonna try to restrict our
the 2 times a day. That's the rule we set. Yeah.
I mean, I haven't checked my phone today, so.
Really?
Let's go. Yeah.
I did to make those cookies.
No, you're also checking it at lunch.
For what? Oh yeah, to show you that thing. To show you that thing.
What were you showing me? No, we went off on some tangent. You're looking up something that like Rockefeller. Oh, how much Carnegie donated to
and Tata.
Yeah.
Okay, that doesn't count. That's reading.
I feel like that's cope. You're just pushing it. You don't need to know that information.
I feel like that's what I do in my free time. Just read.
Read books. Or read information online, you're saying?
Yeah.
Like Quora.
Yeah. Not just Quora, but just information in general.
Yeah, no, but I feel like
sometimes I just start learning a different language just for fun.
Yeah, I feel like different language is pretty productive.
That's fun. I don't know if productive. I don't think it's productive at all.
Why?
I don't know. Sometimes I just start learning words in random languages that I'm never gonna use in my life.
Yeah, I know, but still, it'd be so cool to I feel like that's the coolest superpower ever.
Bro, if
you spoke every language.
Yeah, I know. If he had that, someone was saying, or back in the day, I read about this thing, I don't know if it was Elon Musk. I don't think it was Elon Musk. Maybe with his Neuralink thing, like you can communicate with others without even.
I think I know what you're talking about.
But yeah, I read this. Oh, I know what it was. I read this book, and the dude in the book, it was this super future world, and he had this. Everyone had this implant in their mouth where it would adjust the noises that your vocal cords produces, so you could speak any language. So you just be like, all right, I want to speak. I don't know, like, what is it called? Like Georgian now, bro, and then. You could talk in English, but then it would just translate it to Georgian when you speak with someone.
I heard something similar like that, but it's an earpiece. So whenever you hear someone talk,
that would be way more feasible.
Yeah.
Adjusting the noises in your vocal cords is insane.
But I don't know. But even other than that, I feel like there's very little information we need to know.
It's like a Google Translate in your ear.
Yeah. I feel like there's very little information we need to know. I feel like all this stuff about politics, I feel like I've been getting too involved in understanding what's going on 100%. Recently, but I feel like it's just all pointless.
It's the tree of knowledge, bro. It's our curse.
It rarely affects me.
It's man's curse, the tree of knowledge.
Yeah, but I feel like it's good to be curious on some things.
What if
maybe not everything?
You know, the recent thing I've been thinking is, what if curiosity itself is just a curse? It's a curse of man. If it maybe I was thinking at that time, maybe we all lived in blissful ignorance, if we knew nothing, then none of this. If we weren't curious, then maybe no bad things would have ever happened to humans.
Yeah. Well, maybe it's just my curious nature talking, but I'd rather live in truth than in peace.
No, yeah, but the truth was good. There's nothing bad happening because none of us were curious. But maybe because we started becoming curious,
bad things are... this paradox kind of.
I was talking to someone about this, and they said the same thing, and they said, yeah, but we're so much better off now in our if he said, oh, you're only saying this because you think you're struggling or whatever, but we're so much better off now in our cars and we have all these
little 9-to-5 cubicles in our headphones, looking at or staring at screens all day.
No, not that. You're just saying, like, think about all the things you have now that someone would die for back in the day, like a car. Like people just had to
easy to transport.
People just had to walk across, and just with anything. If you want, I don't know. There's just so many things. Like you can get food from your local store. People had to go hunt for that. And he said, so we're better off now. And I said, is it worth it? I don't know.
That's an interesting question to consider as well.
Yeah.
Because
it's kind of like blissful ignorance.
It's convenience, but also I feel like it happened too fast. I feel like the human body's not made for this.
100%. We touched on this too when I was talking to him, but he was saying that, or we were both saying that our brains evolved faster than technology evolved faster than our brains did.
Yeah. That's true, but are we gonna catch up?
Yeah.
Are we gonna know?
Are we gonna catch up, or are we gonna something bad is gonna happen before we catch up?
Yeah, I mean, either way.
Yeah.
I don't think it's good for us as a species.
Yeah.
Because I see whenever I go to the villages in India, I just see these random grandmas just sitting there, and they're just talking to each other. And sometimes if they just run out of things to talk about, they just sit there and look at their ceilings.
Mm-hmm.
And they're enjoying all of it.
They do that, yeah.
But now, we have all these starved kids.
It's not just villages, it's just older people in general. Like if they're done talking to you, they'll just sit there with you, but they won't say a word.
Yeah. And all these dopamine starved children that are they can't go 5 seconds without looking at their phone.
Coco melon.
All these what?
Coco melon.
Yeah. Even people our age, bro.
Yeah.
Not just those children.
Yeah. Gen Alpha.
Yeah, no. Yeah,
why did they get Alpha, bro?
Yeah, no, I want Alpha.
They're the worst of them all.
Yeah. They're Generation Beta will be an accurate title then. But yeah, they're worse off, and it's just gonna keep getting worse.
Except brats,
but I feel like some esoteric movements are coming back, like esoteric health, for example. A lot of people are realizing you don't need to go through all this and have all these complex medicines and these whatever.
We're going backwards.
Like meliosynthopatic, like whatever.
Yeah.
It's just Pokemon names.
Yeah. We're moving backwards.
But I mean now, people are saying our bodies aren't even built for all these medicines. They're just synthetic chemicals that were made in the lab.
We're moving back to the days that we used to live in.
Yeah.
Maybe that means it's better then.
Yeah, and all the all these people doing dopamine detoxes and stuff.
Yeah.
That never would have happened 10 years ago.
Yeah.
Or what did it, and we were just not aware? I feel like it didn't. I feel like more people know about it now.
Yeah, 100%. Well, I don't think dopamine was as present back then.
10 years ago?
10 years ago was 2014. I don't know. Oh, yeah, because we were too young. But maybe like 2006, 2007, there was no... People weren't on Instagram or TikTok. TikTok is recent, and it's huge because it's just so bad.
Yeah, I know. But even... I mean, just the short form content in general, it's just so bad, even though we're making it.
Man, we have to spread the message somehow. We have to get to the inflicted people.
Yeah, fine. I'll put this in a short.
We have to, yeah, sure.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty bad.
It's bad.
Yeah, but also, even besides short-term content, I feel like, what do you think about movies? Or movies bad? Or movies a step in the wrong direction?
I enjoy movies.
Yeah, me too.
But I also enjoy short form content if I was left to it.
Yeah. I mean, I've watched a lot less movies recently. I've just watched a lot less things in general. Even when I'm bored, I just sit there with nothing to do. or draw on a piece of paper.
Plays have been around for a long time. We used to watch plays.
Yeah, but relative to
our answer, like I don't know about all that. What about the Threat Yuga, man? Was it popping?
The plays? They had performances like dances and stuff.
Yeah. They had plays too.
Did they?
Yeah.
Yeah. Then maybe plays aren't bad.
And even when we were cavemen and stuff.
We told stories.
We told stories.
Yeah. In that case, I think it's better to do it in a group setting.
Yeah.
Versus just somebody sitting there watching a movie on their computer.
Oh yeah.
If you get a group of people and you go to the movies.
Yeah.
And you're just yelling and howling at the screen like they used to do back in the day. I feel like that's the ideal excursion.
I feel like from that lens, everything we have today is just a bad move. Then it's just moved us in a worse direction.
Yeah, I mean it's slowly become like that.
Yeah.
Now, then these dopamine these people are just so sensitive to not having enough dopamine.
Yeah.
As well, and they make super compulsive decisions.
Like everything is relative. Someone in the 1920s might have said, "Oh, the young kids these days, they're watching movies. That's why their dopamine is. They're going to the movies and watching these silent films. They're watching these watching pictures on the screen.
Yeah.
Dopamine." Well, I don't even know if people knew what that was back then.
I know your point makes sense.
Yeah.
I mean, that could be the case.
Yeah.
But the 1920s is still a relatively small time.
Just slowly got worse and worse.
Yeah.
We need to go back to the days when we were just chilling in nature.
Yeah, that's my ideal life.
Bro, but I think this is what I was saying to the same person I was talking to. But when we were talking about, he was asking for maybe evidence that we're worse off, because he's firmly believed that we're way better off, and innovation is a good thing, and humans only become better off as they continue to progress. So he was firmly believing in this. So I had to approach this from a different angle. I couldn't tell him, I couldn't argue with him about values and morals and stuff. So I had to approach this from a different angle. And I was asking him if he thought we had a connection to nature. So I was saying, okay, if you think we only gained from innovation, then let's look at perhaps what we lost. So I asked him, do you think we have a connection to nature? Like, why, when we look at the stars, do we feel some kind of like awe in us, or mountains? Like, it's just like a star is a light in the sky.
Or the northern lights.
Yeah.
Or any scenic view.
It's literally a light in the sky. Why do we feel so, I don't know, why do we feel so, I guess, starstruck by it? No pun intended. But, all right. Thanks for the laugh. And then he was saying, maybe it's evolutionary, but evolutionary how? Like, as in, what did it ever do for us? Or maybe because back in the day we didn't know what it was, and we were like, yeah, that's crazy that there's a light in the sky. But even then, like, it's a light in the sky, bro. Yeah. I feel like there's just so much else going on. Why would we be starstruck by that? But then I think what I was arguing was that we have some kind of connection with nature itself. And, people back in the day used to worship nature as a god. And we say Mother Nature a lot. Like, where do you think that comes from? So I think there was a connection with nature that we lost. And it's definitely a bad thing. And when you look at some of the pure places in the world as an untouched by man, it's just insane. We look at that and we're amazed, right? Like, we're like, I want to go here.
Like the mountain that you're showing.
Like, I need to go here, yeah. And then we just forget about it in a couple of days. Yeah. But yeah, I think that's something that I've noticed, and I think that's proof that we've lost something, and proof that maybe we are worse off. That's one thing. But
also, we're destroying nature with our creation as well, and also we're becoming so. Well, I don't want to say infantilized, but I can't think of a better word. Mm-hmm. It's like we're just trapped in this little box.
Yeah.
And back then people were just moving around. They could just go wherever they wanted to.
St. Louis, when you like go on some of those highways in winter, bro, like, it's just like, this is awful. Like, if you see some of the
I don't share that sentiment.
What?
Detachment.
What?
I'm detached. It doesn't matter how it is.
No, it is. Bro, if you're just traveling on some of those highways during the winter, and then you see something like Switzerland or something, bro, those mountains, it's just like, there's a lack of color, bro. We lost color in nature, bro. I don't know. It's you can say you want to detach yourself and all that, but you can't ignore.
You're saying objectively, it's just worse.
Objectively, we lost something.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah. Maybe
we did. But then, okay, so then what was your argument coming from that standpoint? That innovation is bad and that we lost all of this because of it?
Yeah, I'm saying...
Honestly, what has innovation even done? It's just convenience.
It's convenience.
That's it.
Yeah. But if we didn't have this in the first place, we didn't even think of it. We would just
okay,
be
but I feel like convenience is good for a certain thing. Like, for example, I could just text you, like, can I come over and record this podcast?
Yeah.
But then back then I'd have to mail a letter, and even before that, I don't even know what I'd have to do.
You didn't even know each other.
Yeah, exactly.
Just being your little family tribe.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
so I guess to that extent it is good, but there is pros and cons.
That's another thing. We used to be a lot more closer with our families and also just less alone, you know? I think honestly that's partly why people are more, or depression has gone up so much. My parents were saying that even in India back in the day, houses, weren't this big and people used to live in smaller spaces. So even when you're doing your homework, you don't go to your room and you do your homework. You just sit there with everyone else doing their own thing, but you're doing your homework in the company of them. And the fact that kids are now isolating themselves in their room and, God knows what they're doing on their phones while in their room alone, like,
okay,
it's the truth. But it is, I think it partly definitely leads to feelings of loneliness and isolation, which is a cause of depression. So
that's true. And also, social media definitely has. Okay, yeah. Actually, maybe that interconnectivity did lead to us feeling more alone in a way, because you're not actually talking to these people.
Oh yeah, bro. Hey, go ahead.
What? No, that was just the point that I was making, is that we're not actually talking to these people at all. We're just getting validation from, they like their post. Do they really like your post? They could just be scrolling and just accidentally pressed their screen 2 times.
Yeah.
But then our dopamine just goes up so much by doing that.
Yeah. Okay, that movie I was hating on so hard?
Yeah.
Maybe I overly hated on it, all right? Okay. For the audience, it's an Indian movie, Kho Gaya Hum Kahan, but it's the same thing. The whole movie was centered around people living in this day of social media, and there's these 3 friends, and they felt less connected to the people around them. And they said this they had these, like, at the end, they were like, it was this corny moment. They're like, oh, we learned this, we learned that. It wasn't as obvious, but it was like that. But they were saying the same thing. They were saying, in this day, and maybe it was hated over. I feel like maybe it was a valuable movie for kids. So, but maybe I hated on it too hard. But they were saying, yeah, in the process of becoming more connected through social media, we've lost meaningful relationships with people that we actually know.
They're saying it's just becoming super superficial.
Yeah. And not just superficial. They were just saying by knowing more people, I don't think they were saying this, but this is what I took away from it. But they said, just to keep this clear, they were saying that in this age of interconnectivity, we're somehow less connected. They just presented that irony. Mm-hmm. All right. But what I took away from it is by knowing more people less meaningfully, it's not as good as knowing a few people meaningfully. It's that whole thing about big friend group, but you're not super close to any of them, or small friend group, but you really like them. Mm-hmm. So,
yeah, but and that, and also I feel like because there's so many distractions, we were talking about this in one of the earlier episodes as well. But because there's so many distractions, people don't just sit down with themselves and they're like, what do I actually want? They just follow the hive mentality. Mm-hmm. They're like, oh, my friends are doing this, I should do it too.
Yeah.
Like, they don't stop to consider it for themselves.
Yeah, 100%.
Like, is this, should I be doing this or not? I mean, if you want me to give you an example, I was literally telling this to my sister. I was telling something to my sister yesterday, and she was just making fun of me. I said, what did I say? And she couldn't even say it. She was just rejecting it because it was like I acted like I was in a commanding tone, and I was like trying to impart advice on her.
This makes me think we should definitely post those reels on TikTok, because I feel like part of the reason we did create this podcast was to, spread a little bit of awareness about these kind of things. So I think we should definitely create these. I think we should post those TikToks, because I honestly, maybe some people won't believe it, but I don't know if it's a result of this, but at least we can say we planted a seed in some people's minds, like seed of thought. Because some people at our school have genuinely gotten better, bro. And I'm not saying it's because of the podcast, but maybe it had some effect.
Yeah, maybe.
You know what I'm saying?
I can see it.
Less, like, robotic and, like, actual thought in, like,
Like they're thinking for themselves.
Yeah.
That could be.
A little bit. I'm not saying it's 100% like doing our podcast, but we could have planted something in their head,
Yeah. I feel like it's a good thing to strive for as well.
Yeah.
Because,
selflessness, man.
Yeah. It's true, and it doesn't take much out of
our.
It doesn't take much out of
our.
It
literally
take
them from Instagram and copy them on TikTok.
Yeah.
I'll do it right after this podcast.
Yeah, fine.
And I'll make a clip out of this so the people know what we're doing this for.
Yeah, fine.
There's so many clips in this. I feel like, and clips in the last one.
Yeah.
All right, I'll post them.
Yeah, fine.
Time to get to work.
Yeah. You know, low-key, I feel like the Christians are onto something. Just have 6 days of intense work and 1 day of rest every week.
6 days of intense work. That's what it was? I don't think so.
Yeah. I think it was God created the earth in 6 days. On the 7th day, he took a rest.
Yeah. But I don't know if it was supposed to be 6 days of intense work. It's just, I think the point is 1 day for the Lord. That's the most important part. 1 day where you do nothing. I don't know about the 6 days of intense work.
I mean, okay, creating the earth, I'd argue is pretty.
Okay,
intense.
That's God, bro. Some people
and we're supposed to emulate.
Some people are gonna argue that we should be working 6 days a week.
Okay. All right. Yeah, but even if you're not, or working in what way?
In the office.
No, we shouldn't take it like that. We should work towards.
Yeah, work towards ourselves.
Something, yeah.
100%. Our role in society. You know, the caste system wasn't that bad. They just got ruined.
Oh, not we know. Both of us know.
Yeah, everyone had a role in society. That's what it was about. It wasn't by birth.
Mm-hmm. It wasn't by birth, but also it got corrupted in the long term because, I mean, the people that could read were just like, yeah, this is how it is. We're superior. We're better than you. And they're just like, yeah, whatever.
Yeah, I don't know if that's the reason, but apparently.
Okay, what else would be the reason?
According to your, I don't know. I just don't know if that was why it got corrupted or how.
That's what I think. That's what I think.
Maybe
I feel like that's the most logical explanation. What else would it be?
Why caste system became rigid?
Yeah. I
feel like it could be partly due to the fact that kids just do what their parents do. You know, it's like, we have, you know. Even if you look in Europe or something, you know, blacksmith, his apprentice will be his kid. That kid will be a blacksmith.
Yeah, but not necessarily.
And then only blacksmiths and their kids will be blacksmiths.
Yeah, but earlier on, people would flock to if there was a skilled blacksmith in the area, people of many different professions would come to the blacksmith and they'd be like, teach me.
Yeah, but
there's a lot of stories.
But to an extent, it becomes, I think, when you have something like that, it just, to any extent, even look at people now, bro, like doctors, a lot of doctors' parents were also doctors.
Yeah.
I think, and then, you know, they only want to marry another doctor. That doctor says, I only want to marry another doctor. And then it just becomes a family of doctors. I feel like that kind of thing over a long period of time is definitely bound to happen.
Maybe. I don't know.
And it wasn't like it was completely rigid. There's so many, like, subcastes that went from, like, for example, take the Moyal Brahmins of Punjab. They were Brahmins, but they abandoned their priestly duties as a whole community. And they took up, you know, ruling and warriors, that kind of posts. And there's plenty of castes or plenty of communities like that. That there's one that abandoned warriorship and I don't know their names, but there's one that abandoned warriorship and ruling, and then they went to trading and business.
Yeah.
So,
but then they're still considered Brahmins. They're not considered, you know, Kshatriyas or Vaishyas.
Yeah, but that's now. Now it's way complicated because of the British and stuff. But I'm saying it wasn't.
Yeah, but I feel like it was rigid, really rigid, even before the British as well.
Yeah, it was rigid, but I'm saying, like, rigid. How rigid do we think it was?
Like, pretty rigid.
I feel like it wasn't any different than European society.
No. Because even if you look at the Mahabharata, whenever Karna tries to do the Draupadi Swayamvara, they didn't let him. She's like, I don't want to marry a low-born commoner or something.
Yeah, but it wasn't by caste. At that time, it wasn't.
It was. She said, I don't want to marry a charioteer's son.
Yeah, but it wasn't about.
Yeah, because he's lower. The charioteer is lower than the king. But he was still a king himself.
It wasn't.
But he was still a king himself.
I don't think it was about caste. I think that was just a. I mean, it's not caste system as we know it, but. Yeah, I guess people do care what someone's parents were.
Yeah, but that was way before. That was a long time ago.
That's just a social status thing, bro.
I feel like the social status thing has something to do with caste. Because why can't the son of a charioteer become a king?
That's no different than Europe. There's people who are the royals. You think the royals will marry anyone who's not a royal? These people are royals, bro. Like, the ones we're talking about in the Mahabharata,
I know.
They're the ruling people.
Because I feel like
they're the ruling people in India. And if you look at the ruling people in Europe, they started marrying each other because they didn't want to marry others.
That's true also.
But I feel like in Europe.
Yeah, no, but I feel like, I don't know, look at the story of David and Goliath, for example. David was just a commoner, but then he gained his glory. Like, he gained royal status by doing something.
I'm not saying it's right or wrong, but I'm not saying...
No. I'm saying that it's I'm not saying it's the right or wrong anything. I'm just saying that, it's some status is something that could be earned. But I feel like especially in that story, he did earn it. He was the greatest warrior, and he was a king, but they still didn't want to marry him because he was born of a charioteer.
Yeah, but that's not something specific to India. Like, that social status being born or through blood it's a general concept,
Yeah, that makes sense.
Like, why? Yeah, because kings were so pretentious about their blood, and royal blood was this huge thing,
Yeah. I guess, yeah. But I still felt like...
People's lineage mattered to them. I'm not saying it should matter, but that's just... It's not something specific to India or caste system in India.
That makes sense. So you think he got... Yeah. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Do you think it got more rigid after the British came?
What? Yeah. I mean, the British, I don't know what happened, but they messed it up in a lot of ways. That just happens when you have two cultures interacting, like two various different cultures interacting. But, yeah, I don't know. And also, the castes in India today are, like, almost all... They have their... India has been around for so long that almost every single caste has their own culture. Like, you know what I mean? There's, there's certain practices that will only be practiced within that caste. So then that's also another thing. Like, that at some point, there's maybe some certain groups in Europe where, like, if they were German, I'd only want to marry a German. I wouldn't want to marry someone else. Because they're proud of their German heritage.
I don't know. I feel like they did marry a lot for alliances and stuff.
That's true, but I don't know. But culture's intermingling. That's something we can say that's not very common, or at least back in the day. How much, if
there were small subsects, but it wasn't enough to affect a huge country like Germany.
Yeah, not Germany, but if cultures were completely free to intermingle with everyone, then today we would see everyone mixed. But that's not the case at all. So cultures didn't intermingle. They don't, most cultures are endogamous. And at that point, India has been around for so long that's just, but the exception to that is definitely China. Because I feel like they've just absorbed everyone in and made them, Han Chinese, yeah. I mean, again, Han Chinese is also a group, but 90% of China is Han Chinese.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I think that's what happened in India, The caste became so... just they developed their own practices and cultures, and now there's people who are saying we don't want to marry another caste because they don't have the same culture as us. And especially if you look at across India, like if you're, I don't know which is more common, or which would be more accepted in Indian society today, like a high caste from two geographical regions marrying, or a high caste or a low caste in the same region. I don't know which one would be more accepted. I feel like maybe it might be from two different regions, which proves your point of casteism. So, but that's, again, like we said, a product of many other things.
Yeah, I mean, we're not trying to deny casteism or anything.
I'm not denying casteism. It exists. I'm just saying, I'm just wondering why it evolved, I guess, or how it evolved.
How it became so like it is today.
Yeah, and I would say, to your point that you initially said about certain people manipulating it, I just don't know if that's the case, because I would ask for the evidence,
Certain people how?
You said that certain people, people that could read manipulated the caste system for themselves, and I would question if that's the truth.
I don't know. To me, that makes the most logical sense. But what you said also makes logical sense. That's just what I always thought. Because, why did it become so rigid? Because, but I don't know. Maybe if you're saying each, okay.
Yeah.
I understand your perspective. I'll have to look into it a little bit myself to see if I agree.
Yeah.
But I don't have any counter arguments against it.
Yeah, for now.
Yeah.
One thing that I was talking about was when we were talking about why the Northern Lights are so cool. Like, we consider that beautiful, right? Mm-hmm. So then, like, why do we consider it beautiful, or what do we define as beauty for ourselves? I was talking about this with the same person I was talking about all of this with, but we were saying that there's two ideas of beauty, right? Or two opposing ideas of beauty. One is that we are attracted to people similar to us. This is such a tangent from what we've been talking about, though.
Go ahead. You
can just make this. I don't know what you want to do with this, but yeah. But there's one idea that we're attracted to people similar to us, and then there's the other idea that we look.
Speak with more emphasis, man.
Okay, fine. Yeah. So there's one idea that we're attracted to people who look similar to us, and then there's another idea that we're attracted to rarity or like rare features, you know?
Oh yeah, you were saying this. You were saying this before as well.
Yeah. Like why do we like when we consider an Indian or when we see an Indian person with colored eyes or something, we're like,
oh, this person's
attractive, right? So to that extent, we're attracted to people who have rare features. But then also, you know, you look at cultures that don't intermingle at all, and then you would think people, and it's not even a cultural thing anymore. Like look at black and white Americans, right? That's not a cultural thing. Black Americans and white Americans are culturally pretty similar, meaning language, food, all that. And because it's American culture, you know, they can say, people will argue they're culturally different, but if you look at if you compare that to a place like India or something, bro, they're not culturally different at all. They're the exact same. So yeah, but still, black and white marriages aren't the most common interracial marriage in America. Mm-hmm. I'm pretty sure it's Hispanics, but again, that goes to that's what we were thinking about. Are we attracted to people similar to us, or are we attracted to people who look different than us, you know? For plants, I've heard that heterogeny is better for their survival, like an evolutionary thing. Mm-hmm. But
I mean, we aren't plants. I don't know. What do we find?
We are living things, though, you know?
We are living things.
I feel like that applies to anything, you know? The reason heterogeny is good for plants is because it allows for better mutations, right? Like, and I feel like it's the same for humans. I mean, we're one species, obviously. We're not different species, but plants, when they're heterogeneous, I think, I'm not 100% sure on this, but I think the reason it's better for them is because they can adapt like the best of each, like the best mutations of each, almost, something like that.
What?
Like if one plant had a really like a mutation that was really useful for it. I can't think of an example on this top of my head. Another plant had a really good mutation, and then both of them breed. Now they can have both of those. I don't know if that makes sense, and I don't know if that's the reason. We can ask my dad after, he would know. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I think there's an evolutionary reason why heterogeny is good for plants, and I feel like the same logic would apply for humans. So I don't know. But then again, if you look at India or something, we're so endogamous. Yeah. So who knows?
I don't know. I mean, even if you look at India, how did Indians become Indians? It's a mixing between
100%
multiple different subsections.
No Indians are purely Indians are a mix of 3 ancient populations, and no Indians are solely like one of those. I think the most you might see is some populations in Pakistan. Okay, when we say India, we're talking about South Asia. Sorry, Pakistanis and Bangladeshis. But some groups in Pakistan have like 70% in one group, but that's the most. Mm. Right? Like most groups are, and some groups in some tribal groups are 70% of one group, but that's the most. Like almost all Indians are a mix of these three populations.
I wonder why Pakistanis and tribal groups. I wonder what they have in common.
No, it's not like that.
I'm just kidding.
It's not like that. It's 70% of one group, meaning, yeah. It's not really like that. It's just, depending on who lived in your area, or where the populations came in.
Yeah. Just geographical location.
Geographical location, 100%. The most mixing probably happened where...
in the middle.
Yeah, the middle of India. Or kind of the middle, but it's like more like where the Vedic civilization was. Because those people were the least in terms of all the populations. But yeah.
The least meaning they're the most mixed.
Least meaning they were like less in numbers. So if you want if we're assuming 3 groups, Indians are a mix of 3 ancient populations, right? And then if you wanted the most mixed person, you would need 1/3 in each, right? Or you would want a person who has 1/3 of each group. And where you'd find that most is where Vedic civilization was, because that migration was the least amount of people. The two migrations before that were huge mass migrations.
Yeah, okay, that makes sense.
So that third migration is a little bit more rare in India, or that third population.
That makes sense. What do you think about interracial marriage?
Bro, are you trying to get me canceled?
No, I just want to say.
What do you think? Meaning what?
Curious.
Like, what? Like, what do you mean? What do you mean? What do you think about it?
Just
like,
in general.
Like, do I think it's okay? Yeah.
Well, yeah, obviously.
Why would I be against it?
I don't know. Or do you think it's ideal for evolution?
Ideal for evolution? I don't know. The only thing I've ever heard is that plant's point. I know that. Well, we all know that you can't marry within the family. That's bad for you, right? Mm-hmm. But
you're saying how much to that extent?
How much to that extent? You know, like if let's say you have a group of people, and they're making sure they're not marrying anyone, like, you know, they know who their second cousins are and third cousins are or whatever, right? But like, how far back can you go? And then once you go to that point, does it even matter? Like, if you're marrying your fourth or fifth cousin or something, does it even matter? Like, is that bad for you? And you wouldn't know either, right? Like, who's your fourth cousin? You wouldn't even, you can't name one. So, you know, I don't know. In America, obviously, it's way harder because what's the chance that you're going to meet someone who's your fourth cousin or something? Mm-hmm. It's a country of immigrants. But then again, the immigrants, we all mixed. Mm-hmm. You know, there's people who have been here, whose ancestors have been here for hundreds of years. So, I don't know. I think what I've heard is up to 2 generations, it doesn't matter. So, like, your second cousin, if you married and had kids with it, would be bad. But your third cousin, you're going to see little or zero effect.
Okay.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah. And then...
But then, I mean, would it be better or would it be... Or I feel like what you're saying, it doesn't matter. But what if you just married someone from a completely different area? Mm-hmm. Then
would it be better?
At all? Yeah.
Yeah. That's what I was thinking. Like the same thing with the plants. Like there's no effect at all. But then, yeah, I guess there's no reason to be against interracial, intercultural, intergeographical marriage, other than, you know,
I mean, if you're looking
other than cultural reasons.
Yeah, if you're looking at the moral side of things, like how do you raise an interracial child?
Other than cultural reasons, there's no reason to be against it. But there is a reason to be against, like, super close endogamy. Like, there's no reason to be against exogamy other than the fact that culture. Mm-hmm. But the reasons to be against endogamy are much more severe, yeah. And endogamy to what extent, again? So, I don't know. That's the only thing I'd say about intercultural marriage. It's cultural differences. But I don't know if there's anything else, any other reason negative to it.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm trying to think. What's the argument that people who are against it would say?
It is definitely a purely cultural thing.
Okay.
Because it's like, oh, if a Christian and a Muslim kid marry, or a Christian and a Muslim marry, how would you raise your child?
Yeah.
But then it's those people themselves are just so rigid in their worldview.
That's a challenge. That's definitely a challenge, though.
It is a challenge. But I don't know. To me, I feel like it's not that hard.
You'd be fine?
Yeah.
You doing that? Yeah. I don't know. I think it 100%. It just depends on the person. Then would they be willing to do that, or would they be okay with that? I don't know. I feel like I mean, especially even if you're looking at the moral side of things, I was exposed to a lot of Catholicism as well, because I went to Catholic school for a decent amount of or at least during my prime developing years. And I feel like they didn't affect me too much. Or I feel like I got, you know, I grabbed what I could from my parents and I grabbed what I could from my school, and just kind of combined it together to form whatever values. Yeah. Or found the common values in each.
Yeah, and build a foundation out of them.
Yeah.
So I feel like in that case, it's not that bad.
Yeah, but with marriage, I think it's a different case because some people, you know, if you look at some Abrahamic religions, they would reject anything we believe in if they were a strict follower of that religion.
Would they though? I feel like they would just do it out of you're not knowing enough.
No, they would reject it, meaning they wouldn't want their kids to be. If you married a devout Christian, like they wouldn't let your kid worship Ram or Krishna.
That's true,
right? So.
Because it'd be hard to make that argument again that it's all the same. Or, I was thinking about this as well. We're saying religion is all the same, but I feel like to an extent it is. But there's some stuff that's definitely unique to each.
Yeah.
Because even in the way that we worship, I mean, Christianity, it's like you're exclusively praying to Christ, and he is the only, and you reject everything else. And then in Islam, it's like you submit, your submission to God. That's the most important thing over anything else. And then in like Hinduism or Buddhism or any of the Eastern religions, it's detachment. It's like you don't care about much.
Devotion also matters.
Devotion also matters. I agree.
In Hinduism, there's different schools of thought.
That's true. Okay, then let's leave Hinduism out of it and say Buddhism is mainly about detachment, and that's how you attain salvation.
Yeah, but Buddhism isn't even a religion.
It's not a religion.
It goes back to our definition of religion. I feel like the modern definition of religion is just anyone that worships a higher power. But do Buddhists believe in a higher power?
It's up to their interpretation, I think.
Yeah, but it's just not important to them.
In general, yeah.
In general, is it a religion then?
In general, they say, I think it is, because it's a way of life. Like your entire lifestyle is just based around that.
But then so many things are a religion. The American way of life, is that a religion?
Yeah, but I mean, how strictly do the people follow the American way of life compared to Buddhism?
Okay, let's look at some radical political people. Like some people who believe, like think about some liberals who all believe the same things. And if you disagree the slightest bit, they'll be on you. And the same with hardcore conservatives. But they'll be like, if you say something slightly against their belief, then boom. I remember when I was a kid, or when I was in middle school, Andrew Yang was running for president, and he aligned with the progressive agenda to a dot. And then he put out a letter and he said he supported Israel, right? And he's like, we stand with Israel. Then all these people just came out and were like, all right, I'm not voting for you anymore. I'm not voting for you. I'm not voting for you. And regardless of the merit of that belief or whatever, what he believes in about Israel, like that is a religion, bro. Like they believe in that every single issue they have to be on the same point.
That makes sense. But if you're saying then to a higher
that's a way of living almost, you know?
But I'm pretty sure they believe in the collective unconscious and stuff as well.
Who?
The Buddhists.
Oh, yeah.
So I mean, you could argue that that's a higher power. Yeah. It's something above the rest of humanity.
Yeah.
They just don't think that they have any duty to worship it or anything. Yeah. They think the way to salvation is detachment.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's what I'm saying. It's different for each thing. I mean, even if you're looking at Christianity, detachment is there, but it's not as emphasized as, devotion to Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
So I feel like you can say they're all the same, but they're all a little bit different to an extent. Yeah. But I feel like they're all, I don't know, maybe different proofs of God or different ways to get to him. And I feel like that's something, I feel like it might be a good thing if we know all of that, or we understand all of that, and we don't rigidly follow one to a T.
If you understand
the different paths to get to God.
Yeah, I'd say it's always good to like broaden your knowledge and broaden your, I guess, understanding of different things or different paths to God, sure. But also following, it's almost, for me, I almost believe that everyone has a certain path of God and they should stay on that path. I think all of them,
like they're by birth?
Yeah, by birth or whatever way they land on it, But I think there's no point, again, that I think this is why our religion doesn't, or our belief system doesn't convince people to, or doesn't believe in conversion. But it's almost like every person has a path to God, and it's not my job to deter them from that path. Like, oh, here's a new idea. How about you think about this? And then, you have a kid who's a devout Muslim, and he's not super knowledge, meaning he doesn't know about the other paths to God. And then he's on his path and he's a devout Muslim, but he doesn't know about Hinduism, Christianity, any of it. And then you give him an idea like, oh, something that might interfere with his path or interfere with what he believes. You give him this thought, then I feel like it's like deterring him from his path to God. Why would I want to deter this kid when, he's obviously on the right track and he's on the right path?
That makes sense.
So I don't know.
But what if this kid is really on about submission, but then you, I don't know, show him or you say, You say, detachment's not a bad thing as well. Again, you can say detachment builds into submission as well.
But why would I want to encourage detachment to him when he's, when submission is going to lead him to the same result?
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
So you feel like, is that where the problem lies whenever two religions mix together?
Yeah. And the other thing I was going to say is, this is another thing. So again, going back to the interracial marriage, I feel like I was out of it and I didn't give you like a clear enough answer when you asked that, and it might have made it seem like I was racist for a second, but I was just thinking about these things. So I was thinking about the reasons like why someone would be against it in the first place, but another reason could possibly be back to when you said when I said this, when we've evolved faster than our biology.
Our brains can catch up.
Our biology. For so long, we've married within the same groups and we've had children within the same groups. It almost makes me wonder, like, what would happen if you marry someone from, like...
just looking at it from a pure biological perspective.
Yeah, someone that's genetically super, super different from you. Like, would there be any adverse effects of that? I'm not a biologist. I'm not a geneticist.
I don't know. If I think about it...
I know a lot of interracial kids, and they're fine. Like, there's nothing wrong with them, but...
Like, I'm thinking about
for one species at the end of the day, so...
Yeah. I'm thinking about this as from... just in general, even what you're saying about plants as well, I feel like it should generally be fine because...
Oh, yeah?
Because I think your point in general, or not in general, but your point at the beginning of this discussion, or this specific discussion, you were saying, it's really bad, or there are very much adverse effects to marrying inward, but there's not much to marrying outwards, or at least not that I'm aware of.
Yeah.
So I feel like to that extent it's fine.
Yeah.
Because the reason why... we don't want people to marry within the same village, or we don't want people to marry, whatever. But outside, it's fine. Like two people from a different village. That's what you were saying as well. It's like they didn't want any of your grandparents to be married from the same village.
Yeah, none of our, we don't. I think that's like a practice. Like we don't marry someone from the same village. Long ago. I mean, now everything's changed, but. Now everything's changed. Not meaning we marry within the same village, but meaning we're marrying like white people now and stuff. Yeah. So
it's a little different.
Not in a disgusting way. That sounded kind of wrong. I was like, we're marrying white people now.
No offense intended.
I'm just saying, we're marrying way different people. Before it was you'd marry within the same region, but like
it's like someone 5 miles away from you versus someone
5 miles.
Someone I don't know 20 miles away from you.
That was a practice. That was a practice where. To prevent that, you would have your, like you would make sure your grandparents all are not from the same, like your 4 grandparents or 8 grandparents, 4 grandparents are not from the same village. Any of them are from the same village. So like I would take my 2 grandparents, and then if I had a wife, and she had 2 grandparents, or she has 4 grandparents. It is 4. Okay.
It's 4 each, so it's 8 grandparents.
I have 4 grandparents. She has 4 grandparents, and you have to make sure that none of them are from the same village.
Yeah.
So that's like 2 generations down, like I was talking about. But that was the practice. Go on.
With that practice, I'm saying, it was good. It was emphasized that. But you're saying, or maybe you're saying, is there a bad thing with us marrying so far outside of our gene pool?
Yeah, like
you think it should be somewhere in the middle?
Like, does the right fall somewhere in the middle between endogamy and exogamy?
I'm not sure.
I don't know.
I mean, there's probably no research to suggest otherwise because there's a lot of intermixing happening nowadays.
I think cultural reasons are definitely the only, bad side to it.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm not getting married anytime soon. No use in thinking about it right now.
100%. But
Cool.
So we end every podcast.